Welcome back, everybody, to our podcast, Melo Merezco. I'm your host, Andrea, and today we have an amazing guest, Maribel Francisco. She's the founder and CEO of Our Wealth Matters, and she's also a bilingual immigrant money coach. So that's pretty exciting. Something I've heard just recently or found out like that's a thing. So, Maribel, welcome. How are you?
Thank you, thank you. And maybe you just found out that that's a thing because I don't know, I might be like the first one who created it.
Yeah,
And
you
I was
like
like,
you coined it. You coined the
yes, I
term.
coined that. I was like, immigrant money coach.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So I want to start with how you started all of this, like your story on even before, like, was this something that you were planning on doing? Because I've done some research. I know you have a job or had a job. So like
Yeah.
tell us
I,
everything.
so I do have a 9 to 5. I do so I'm a finance professional. I'm a finance manager at an entertainment company here in
Mm.
Los Angeles in California. So I still have that job. It pays the bills. And but before this, like I really didn't have the intention to start. It wasn't like
Mm.
my life dream to start a company. I know I wanted to help like my community, the immigrant community, but I never really knew how other than,
Yeah.
maybe volunteering here or there, like you
Mm.
volunteer your time or something. But
Yeah.
other than that, I hadn't really there was no like concrete plan, right? It was just like
Mm.
that'd be something cool to do. And I thought I'd be doing that maybe like
Yeah.
at retirement or algo de that. And so um, really what started Our Wealth Matters was that I was learning how to manage my own 401k
Mm.
and going down a rabbit hole of trying to like learn what any of that was.
Yeah.
And I came out on the other side kind of going like, oh my gosh, I think I know the what a beginner investor needs to know in order to get started. Because I had always
Mm.
also wanted to invest in the stock market, but I
Yeah.
didn't even know how or where to start. Like, who do I
Mm.
give my money to? Where I just
Yeah.
want to give my money and let it be and come back and reap some rewards later.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I wanted to do was do bilingual content, English and Spanish, because I saw that there was
This is
a lot of
great.
lacking Spanish content.
Yeah.
And I did find some, but it was more for other countries or um
Mm.
yeah, mostly it was like other countries like Spain or Latin America. And I was like, that's not us. Why, right? In the USA, we have 401ks, IRAs, very
Yeah.
specific to the US. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do bilingual content. And then I also went and was like, once you learn about personal finance, you realize you can become a millionaire, right? It's going to take
Yeah.
time, but if you're diligent, you keep at
Mm-hmm.
it. And by the time you
Yeah.
retire, you could be a millionaire. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put this out there, right? And I then imagined my immigrant and still undocumented family
Mm.
members coming to me and then going like, oh my gosh, we can be millionaires too. And I was like, que gacho se me haría? Like, how shitty
Mm.
would I feel if I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, not you guys, just us who have social security
Yeah. Have
numbers, who were born
papers.
here, who have
Mm-hmm.
been naturalized. So I went down another rabbit hole of research and learning more about ITINs. So I also have a background in as a certified income tax preparer in
Mm.
the state of California. So we work with a lot of the immigrant communities and ITIN. So that wasn't anything new to me, but
Mm.
like learning what they can do with an ITIN. So that was, have the bank account and have investment accounts and have
Yeah.
retirement plans. And I was like, hold up, wait, what? And then that's when I was like, you know what? I'm gonna like focus specifically on the immigrant community, specifically sharing resources about how even if somebody's fully undocumented,
Mhm.
they can also build wealth in the United States, right? As long
Yeah.
as we're on the mindset that this is going to be long term, and that's the same for anyone, whether you're a citizen or
Or
not.
not. Yeah.
But then in the background of all of that, it's like, why the heck would I want to help the undocumented community, right?
Mm.
The immigrant community. I'm a daughter of immigrants. And so it doesn't affect me as much. Like some people are like, ¿de dónde nació eso? And
Mm.
so the part of like where that came from was because my parents were undocumented when they
Mhm.
first arrived here. At some point, my mom stopped working because she was going to take care of me as like my dad suggested. And so
Mm.
my dad was the breadwinner. He was the only one bringing money home. My
Mm.
mom was still like working behind his back a little, and still doing some seamstress work on the side and getting a little bit of money, but it wasn't the same. And then he ended up getting deported. And my mom and I ended up alone in the United States. And she didn't have an emergency fund that could cover the increase in
Yeah.
rent. She wasn't earning enough, so she didn't have like a full-time job in order to bring that money in. And we ended up living in a car for a little bit of time and, going to her friend's house to maybe eat, or
Mm.
I remember her saying like, you know, I used to pray that you wouldn't ask me for food because I had nothing
Oh
to
shit.
feed you. And I was like, that's
Wow.
fuck. And so she had me when she was 20. So at that time, I think I was like 2 or 3 years old. So imagine like a 22, 23-year-old with a young child living in a car now. Your partner has just been
Mm-hmm.
deported. And so to me, whenever I think about money, I'm like, I never want to end up living in a car again. Like, I never want to
Yeah.
end up like homeless again. And so to me, it's part of the, like, there's trauma there. But at the same time, I'm just like, but this is what's going to push me to
Mm-hmm.
learn about personal finance and keep teaching it to other people in the community, in the immigrant community, so that none of us have to go through that shit.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because for me, I'm undocumented, so I have DACA.
Hmm.
So even like what I know, I don't even I cause let's go with the 401k or the Roth
Hmm.
IRA. I personally there's like specific banks or people that what are it called like brokerage
Hmm. Brokerage companies.
brokerage companies. Like there's some that I can't apply to because I'm a DACA recipient.
Undocumented,
Yeah,
right. And
undocumented.
that's where all that research comes in,
You
right?
have to
It's like
go, yeah.
it's like once you learn all the personal finance information, then you have to do the extra step of researching who
Hmm.
even does business with the immigrant
Yeah.
community and specifically the undocumented community. So that's where I specialize, because I make sure to try to find those companies that will work with the undocumented community. And
Yeah.
then the way I bucketize my information is anything that works for fully undocumented individuals should work for those who have DACA, and
Mm.
then it should definitely work for those who are born in the United States and have a
Yeah.
social security number.
Yeah, that's so true. And then when I found out because I found found out about you through Yo Quiero Dinero podcast, and then I went into your social media and all of that, and I was like, Ma, like look at like you could watch it because this is in Spanish too. Because my mom, she's also into like she's starting to go into the finance personal development journey
Yeah.
type of thing. So she's like
Hey,
breaking
mommy.
barriers. Yeah, like that's so like those conversations are super important and we could like get into that like a bit later, but yeah, I thought it was pretty cool how you were doing like all of this, especially for immigrants that like you said, it's pretty hard to find these informations, and once you find something, it's like you got to go a step further. But let's go back with the I want to go into a little bit of you first
Hmm.
before we start with like the finance and like tips and tricks and all of that.
Hmm.
So for you, that person when you were starting that the Our Wealth Matters, what were some of the things that you kind of had to like work on yourself and for your business? Because at the end of the day, it's like a business. So what were like
Hmm.
some like limiting beliefs that you had and it's like you had to like overcome?
So part of it is sometimes, and this is something I still struggle with. And as you go through your journey, like you hear that other creators, they still struggle
They're
with
still
it as
working
well,
on.
which is like the imposter syndrome. Like, who am
Mm,
I to come and share all this information? Who am
yeah,
I? Who do I think I am? And
yeah.
so part of it also comes from, hearing other creators where sometimes like they also come from an immigrant family, but they're like,
Mm,
it's not my story, it's not my lived experience, that like, why should I be going into the immigrant space? And
mm,
maybe they're very successful in the space that they've chosen, but
yeah,
I'm just like, girl, I mean, I'm not an immigrant myself.
yeah.
I went through that undocumented journey, but I don't see nobody else fucking doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
and this is a community that I really feel strongly for because my parents are from there. I still
Yeah.
have cousins and tios and tias that are from that community. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I'm trying to get everybody to thrive, because you know how they say like the higher you get in your journey or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck, like the lonelier it becomes, right? Like
Oh
up
yeah.
up in the
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm just like, I ain't trying to be lonely. I grew up with a bunch of people. I'm trying to have a party by the time we all make it. So for that to happen, I need to uplift everybody else with me. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to get everybody else uplifted so we can all have a party and we can all be rich and like, you know, sweep the money, como tienen el dicho en español, like, a Estados Unidos vas y barres el dinero. So like you go and you sweep. They're like, tráete una escoba para barrer el dinero. Like bring a broom to sweep all the money that you're gonna make.
Yeah.
And then when immigrants do get here, especially undocumented immigrants, they do get here and they start, working the grind and doing all of that. The American dream kind of becomes more of like the American nightmare. And that's
Mm,
where it's like, okay, well, we got to learn how the Americans who've been here for generations are making their money. And it's
yeah.
not just by going to work every single
A
day
nine
on
to
a 9
five.
to 5 and
Mhm.
coming back, or having two jobs, full-time jobs. That's not the way that they're making their money.
Mhm.
Yeah, they may be doing that, but then they're also investing and putting money towards
Yeah.
retirement accounts. And as undocumented immigrants, sometimes the community believes like we're not even allowed to work, so I don't think we're allowed to have retirement accounts
Yeah.
either. And it's like, that's not true at all. Like, we just need to figure out how to educate
Mm.
ourselves and then educate the community. So
Yeah.
sorry, but the main question, the main answer is like imposter syndrome, right? Kind of going like, who am I? And then part of it is also just going, the more recent one was kind of just trying to figure out my place in the world. And like, I
Mm.
just turned like my big 30,
Oh
and I
wow.
like looked at my life and I was just like, this isn't where I thought I'd be. Like, in the sense of, I thought I would
Mm.
have more. I thought I would have like, some property. I thought I would have something
Yeah.
else to my name. I thought I was like, at this point gonna like maybe me married, maybe be married, or like have a partner that I would see myself taking that step with. And I didn't
Mm.
see that. And I was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing
Yeah.
with my life? And just going like, okay, I need to take other steps. But at the same time, I wasn't working on Our Wealth Matters either, because I was like taking my vacation break.
Mm.
So just dealing with that as well. Like, there's a lot of other content creators, and some will share their journey through that, and some are like, I'll just stick to the personal finance that we got going here.
Mm.
And that's where I also struggle. Like, I'm like, do I share this or do I not? And like, I have something in the Reels bank that's like in drafts. And then I'm just like, I don't
Should I
know.
post? But
Yeah, should I post or not post?
what are like those contents that you're not, is it the sharing or like those vulnerable, or like what is
Yeah,
it?
so it's just like, when you're being very vulnerable and
Mm.
in that part where you're like at your lowest, to show that
Mm.
also, like, yeah, you're going through a personal finance journey, but at the same time, it's not always going to be easy.
Yeah.
You can set everything on autopilot, but there are going to be some stuff that you also just have to deal with as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, once you do have it on autopilot at that point, sometimes it just becomes, you have to now just earn more money if you want it to be
Mm.
quicker. And it's a slow process, because we know it's going to take years, right? At least
Yeah.
10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And you can't make time go any faster. So the only
Yeah.
thing you can do is make more money. Now, how are you going to do that? What are you going to implement in your life to make that happen? But like, dialing it back, that's where I begin, just with like beginner investors,
Mm.
because that's like, okay, you're starting off at zero. How do we set your whole system up so it just becomes
Mm.
on autopilot, and you don't have to
Yeah.
concentrate on like transferring this money to this bank and then this to this, and then, because that becomes
Yeah.
too much.
It starts becoming more complicated because there's so
Yeah.
much information. So start with the foundations and then go from there.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back to like what you said about like you're in your 30s now, so it's like you're trying to fit your place into it, because that's a conversation like many, like I feel like also like no matter what the age you are, it's like you always have those conversations. Because for
Yeah.
me, I'm 23, and I'm also like it's been like about 2-3 years that I graduated college. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing? Like I don't even have like a 9 to 5. Like I feel like it's worse, not like worse like for me is like I don't have a career. I'm not putting like money on my Roth IRA. Like I don't even have a Roth IRA because of like me having to do the research and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I feel like it's like super important. But the things that we have to remind ourselves is like, okay, what am I gonna do now? Because
Mm-hmm.
for me, I could like just like go back into like a depression mode and like oh yeah, I'm just gonna go get a 9 to 5. But like I decided to like, I want to start a podcast where I have these conversations with amazing women and amazing individuals where I could learn more from. So yeah, it's just like giving us grace. And I feel like another thing I was gonna point out is that especially being like first gen, like you guys have to do all this research and have to figure it out. And that takes time too. Because
Yeah.
you don't have that advice that we're or that person to give you that advice like, oh, what should I do? Like I'm really struggling like with this career thingy. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so for me it's like, or for like something that we have to be aware of is giving us grace that, it's okay that I'm in my 30s and I might not have it figured out completely yet, or I might not have the things that I hope, but I'm doing other amazing things. Like I have Our Wealth Matters and I'm helping a
Yeah.
bunch of immigrant people like, or in the undocumented people like start their finance journey. And they might be a bit older than me. And that's, I don't know, it's just fucking awesome. And we just have to remember that.
Yeah. Well,
I
yeah,
love
when I
her.
came back to Our Wealth Matters, because like around there, like I had there was an organization that communicated with me about doing a collaboration, and it was like gonna be my first like legit paid collaboration, and I was like super excited, and I was like, yeah, what do you
Yeah.
guys need, and this and that. It was like the first time in that whole time that I like smiled and was genuinely happy, and I was like, I think this
Oh,
is like, I had thought about it, I was like, I think this is my calling, but that kind of just assured it more in that step of like, I think this is my calling, like I just
yeah.
need to make Our Wealth Matters like grow enough so that it can,
Mm,
you know, pay my bills, and I can leave the 9 to
yeah.
5 and then fully concentrate on Our Wealth Matters.
Mm,
Because at this point, even though I have some money, I'm just like, but the paycheck from the 9 to 5 is also like funding a 401k and an
yeah.
IRA, and allows me to, you know, live a certain lifestyle. And then
Mm,
the other thing that helped was also that, you know, I had I talked to like a counselor through our work. They give us like 10 free sessions with a
mhm,
counselor, and it's like totally like they don't communicate to the company back like what you're talking about or
mm.
anything. Confidential. There we go. It's confidential. And so I like shared this because I was going through like that really rough time, and he was like, you know, you're not the only person. Like a lot of millennials are going through that right now, and like I hear it from a lot of people. And so that helped knowing it wasn't like just me. It was like a
Mhm,
shared experience between me and other people in our
yeah.
generation. And then kind of going like, you know, inflation and the prices have gone up and this and that. And it didn't necessarily make me feel better, but it made me felt like it made me feel like I wasn't the only one
That
going
you
through
weren't
this.
alone.
What made me feel better was then thinking about like, okay, but how am I going to fix this? Like, how am I going to get
Mm,
out of this? And like, what am I going to do to actually change my feelings? Uh, because just knowing that we're all struggling isn't gonna
yeah.
help.
Like, what are
Like,
the solutions for
yeah,
this?
what
Yeah.
are the solutions? And then there's also sometimes a group of like Latinx creators, and so I went on there, and sometimes we'll like talk about like, hey, what are you doing, what are you up to? So one of the things
Mm.
that I just shared, I was just like, guys, I just turned 30, and like I had a whole breakdown, like I couldn't,
Oh.
and this and that, and I went through like um I had also talked to some family members around that time, and they're like younger than me, but they, you know,
Mm,
had just arrived, and they're
mm.
doing the thing. They're doing the thing. They're building homes back, you know, in their countries. They got 2 jobs, and I'm like, damn. And me, who's born here and has that privilege of being born here, and like
Mm,
I don't even have a house. I haven't done
mm.
this or that, and they're like, and those creators were like in their 40s and 50s. And so they
Oh,
were
wow.
providing their perspective in like, you're only 30, or like later 30s. They're like, you're only in your 30s. Like there's still going to be more time. And you know what? You're going to have breakdowns at 40 and 50. Just letting you know. But you know what you're doing? You're making a legacy right now. Like
Yeah.
people a lot concentrate on building things when they're young, like, you know, getting all that money,
Yeah.
but and then building a legacy, like once you get to your 50s, you start thinking like, oh shoot, like what is the legacy that I'm going to leave?
Mhm.
You're starting with a legacy,
Yeah.
and then, you know, the money will come after. And then the other thing that I had to remember is, yeah, my family members are starting to build homes and this and that, but also they got the advantage of currency conversion that I do not, right? If
Mm.
I earn $1, it's worth $1 in the
$1, that's it.
US. Like that's it. Especially in California, the houses start at
Oh, yeah,
$500,000.
there.
And so like, right, that's like minimum.
Mhm.
And over there in another country where the currency conversion is more advantageous, it takes less money to get that done. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's not the same. Like the whole trying to remember it's not the same.
Yeah. And there's always like the pros and cons type of thing where like you're working on, like you say, like your legacy, but then I don't know, it's like they might have this, but then they also have to work on, they're gonna have to work, let's say on I don't know what to compare it with, but I don't know. It's like all of us have our own journey, and they might be
Right.
like doing the houses and all that. But you're also, like you said, you're building your legacy. You're building on a business where it's gonna create so much impact, not to just you, but like to hundreds, thousands, and if not like millions of people want to start like scale. I
Yes.
could
I
already
know.
see
I'm just
your
like,
growth. I could see just like I don't know, like you say like, oh yeah, I wanted to pay my bills and I don't want to live my 9 to 5, but like once you start going into like the business aspect of it, like how can I grow my business, you'll see like it's not that hard, like quote unquote it's not that hard. It's like simple, you could say it's simple
mhm,
but not easy. And so
yeah.
like us like focusing on that, because that's also something we're gonna have to figure out as like first gens, is like
Mhm,
how do I grow a business, like how can I scale
mhm.
it to it work for me, not me work for it.
Yep.
So I don't know, it's just like
And then
you
how does
gotta
it work in the United States
how to
specifically, right?
yeah. I want to ask you because I know like the research I did, your mom has a income tax business, something like that.
Mhm, mhm.
So for you, how has that helped you like learn more about how the business works, and and take that into your own business?
So, maybe a little. So to me, in the way that I've studied,
Mm-hmm.
I want to grow it to a place such that I can then pass it on. You have
Mm-hmm.
the standard operating procedures, which are called
Yeah.
SOPs, like documentation that you can then pass on to somebody else.
Mm,
And a veces se pierde un poquito el dinero, but fuck it.
yeah.
Like the money you're gonna make by adding more hands and more people to your
Yeah.
team, the better. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I see business as something that I at one point want to scale and then be able to step back from and just enjoy the fruits of my labor.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas she refuses to bring other people on except
Mm.
family, and by family I mean her daughters. Um and then she's like, yeah, like she wants to, maybe she's starting to talk about maybe like, wanting to go retire, and I'm like, well, do it. And she's like, no, but my clients need me and this and that. But in income taxes, like if this was your income tax preparer, like you don't go to the company, you go to the person. So it's very
Mm,
much a like, but I guess so is money coaching. But the whole point is that she doesn't want to bring other employees on, right?
yeah.
And so she cannot then take that time to step away.
Yeah. She and
And
can't scale it either because you're
yeah,
gonna have to be there all the time.
yeah. So it's like you either raise the prices or you add more
Mm-hmm.
people, but then you're still gonna have to raise the prices because then you got to pay wages.
Yeah.
So there's a different mentality where she's like, I'm okay as long as it provides enough money for me to live the
Mm,
standard of living that I want.
yeah.
But then you may never like live a higher standard of living because you're doing the math in order to back up into what you currently have, your
Mm,
current standard of living.
yeah.
Mine is like, I want to build it and then be able to pass it on, and then we'll see where that leads
Yeah.
us standard of living wise.
Mm,
So there's that. But also because of that, my mom at the age of 18 has all of us become certified income tax preparers because that's
oh,
the
yeah.
legal minimum age that you need to be. So since the age of 18, let's see, now I'm 30, so 20, 18, 20, this is like 12 years,
12 years, yeah.
11, 12 years. um and I say 11, 12 because it's like towards the end of the year, beginning of the year,
Um,
and then birthdays and stuff. So so that's like I've had, a knowledge and been a certified income tax preparer for the last like 11, 12 years.
oh, wow.
And that helps as well
Mm,
because then I know not just the money, like building up money, but also how it's going to affect your taxes. So it allows
mm,
me to kind of just take that information in as I'm doing research a little bit easier. And when I heard the mention of ITINs, or I was like, what can they do with an
yeah.
ITIN? I didn't have to try to figure out
What it
that an
was.
ITIN was this other number. Yeah, for
Mm,
undocumented individuals, I already knew that because we help people process their ITIN
mm,
forms in order so that they can do
the Texas.
their taxes. Yeah. So, in my mind, because I'm an income tax preparer, I'm just like, everybody knows about ITINs, right? But then like a week or two ago, I was talking to two people from the Haitian community, and I was
Mhm.
on their podcast, and they were like, they're full grown men, right? They've got their careers, but they're just like, I never knew an ITIN existed until I went to your speaking event at the conference at FinCon in 2022. And then I was like,
Wow.
wait, you didn't know an IT? And they're like, this could have changed so many people's lives because with an ITIN, you can set up your own business and legally make
Mhm.
money in the United States, even if you're undocumented. And
Mm.
they're like, that could have changed so many people's lives. A lot of people work with ITIN, like a fake
Yeah.
social security number or
Mhm.
something like that. And I was just like, hold up, wait, you guys didn't know this existed?
Yeah.
Wait, what? So I'm just like, yeah, sometimes I'm like, keep telling me what, like, if I
Mm.
mention something you guys don't know about it, like, keep telling me because I think that everybody already knows it. So
Yeah.
I keep from making content about it because I'm like, everybody already knows that. But
Mm.
if you are a grown person in this community and you're telling me that a lot of the people that don't know about it, like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's great because like we have our own experiences where like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, everybody kind of know this, but then
Hmm.
you go to other like where their experiences might be different in the finance,
Hmm.
especially like in finance maybe, where they have complete where they don't have to be worrying about that. So yeah, it's just sharing that knowledge and like seeing, okay, what do I need to share more of
Hmm.
to help explore. I want to go back to with like what you were talking about with your mom, how it's kind of interesting because in the way she has taught you, but like taught you like on the things that you don't want to really do. Because I listened to Rachel Rogers. I don't know if I mentioned her already, but I listened to
Hmm.
Rachel
Hmm.
Rogers, and she's a business coach. She's a business coach and she has like her own stuff.
Hmm.
And one of the things that so for her there's a scale on like So for me, I'm like in scale 1 where I make like $0 to $2,000.
Mhm.
So from that, like in each level, she gives you like specific things on what you should do for that level of your business. So one of the first, when you're like in the second level, I believe, she tells you like you have to hire somebody. If you want to scale your business or if you want to grow it, like you have to hire someone. It could be like an assistant where she only works like 20 hours, but you have to
Mhm.
start delegating your work, and which I thought was pretty interesting because like you said, your mom, she does not want to hire nobody because she wants it to keep it like tight knit. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Like we have to like know what our goals are for the company and ourselves, and then I go from there, like, and really see like how are people building their business, and it's like through that hiring. So I thought it was pretty interesting. It's pretty cool too. Okay, I want to move into the generational beliefs or like money beliefs as well, because you're as a money coach, what are some of the challenges that you see people have with their relationship with money, and how far does it go back to in like generational wise?
Yeah, so because I cater to fully undocumented immigrants in the DACA community, which so fully undocumented, they're typically from another country and they come here and now they're learning the ways of the USA, right? And then documented community, which is like the people that probably came here at a younger age, so they've had more time to like assimilate and
Mm,
learn about what the United States culture is all about. And then the third bucket that I cater to is the individuals who have been born in the United States. And so they've lived their whole life here, right? And maybe they go back and visit the
yeah.
motherland or fatherland at some point.
Mm,
So there's different challenges with each one because the community that's fully undocumented, they've probably had some sense of they've had some experience already with money even before they arrived in the United States, right? And that can
mm,
look like distrust of the money systems
yeah.
because maybe something happened in their own country. So
Mm,
maybe they put money in the bank and that bank went down and they never saw that money. Maybe the government stole all that money. Maybe, one way or another, they somehow lost money and they got a bad taste in their mouth and they're just like, we're not doing
mm,
this. Or they had a good experience and they're like, this exact account or this exact structure doesn't exist in the United States. So I don't really know what I can trust
so
in the
yeah.
United States. So I'm not gonna,
Mhm.
engage in the United States because I'm not thinking of living my whole life here, right? Why am I gonna set up a
Mm,
bank account if I'm gonna,
yeah,
not be here my whole
I'm
time?
only
What if
gonna
they
be here
take my
for a
money
few
away?
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but then you're also losing money when you're going to the check cashing place and then like cashing your check and they take like
Hmm.
1% away versus just direct depositing it into a bank
Hmm.
account where they're not going to charge you anything,
Yep.
unless they have like a minimum. But then we got to look for better banks and you go down that whole other path.
Yeah.
So there could be a distrust of the United States systems, and that's completely understandable based on
Hmm.
their previous experiences. And then the other part becomes one of the big things. Sometimes when people start talking money, it also becomes like if you're the person talking money, right? Because this used to happen to me or does when I talk to my family about it, which is why I started just building a community instead of people that did want to talk about money, which it becomes like eres muy fijada, which means like you're looking too much at where your money is being spent, or no
Yeah.
seas coda, like
Oh yeah.
damn, don't like hoard your money so much that like you're not, allowing other people to benefit from the money you've made somehow, like
Mm,
kind of like that,
yeah.
right? Or there's another saying that's basically like if you're thinking about money like it's bad, like kind of making it like a negative thing, like it's a
Mm,
sin to be so engaged with your
like
money.
too ambitious too.
Yes, you're like too ambitious. And so these sayings it are like, oh, money is the root of all evil, right? You
Mm,
start talking about money, you start talking about money, and they're like, money is the root of all evil, and that's a way to
yeah.
just like shut down that whole conversation, whatever it is that you're saying.
Hmm.
And so sayings like these are what keeps us from actually having those money conversations, but not just having them, but then also moving on to the next stage of learning about money in
Mm,
that case, right?
yeah.
Do you think that the rich families are going like money's the root of all evil and then shutting it down? No, they still teaching their kids like, hey, you got to do this 401k, you got to do this IRA. If you don't
Hmm.
know how, we'll get our accountant to set you one up because it tax benefits in this. Yeah, a la
Yeah.
mejor sometimes the kids don't even understand what's going on, but their parents already like, I
They
got you.
already know.
Yeah, I'm already setting you up even if you don't think that this is good for you. Like we're gonna save on
Hmm.
taxes because we make shit ton of money anyway. But if we have the conversations where we're just saying these things and then shutting it down, and we don't
Mm,
allow that conversation to continue going to like, and now let's learn how to make that money. Let's learn how to legally save on taxes, whether we're documented or undocumented,
mhm.
by investing in our retirement. Like we never get to those conversations because they're being shut down
Shut
with
down,
these
yeah.
sayings. And so that's another thing that we all have to deal with. And that's when, like, now, people go onto social media, now they start following creators that they're like, this person isn't shutting down that conversation, and they're actually
Mm,
teaching me what to do about money in for someone in my specific situation. And then the other part then becomes when somebody's like, okay, I'm on it. I want to do the personal finance thing. Like, what do I do? And then you're like, okay, you got to start putting money here and here and here. Then it becomes like, oh shoot, like what if I don't have enough money for an emergency? What if an emergency
mm,
comes up and I don't have enough money because I've been putting towards a 401k and an IRA? And it's like that's when it becomes like, what is it that you're being taught? Because when I
mm.
teach, emergency fund is like the number one thing you have to have topped off before you
Yeah.
even start in these other things. And that way
Mm,
you don't feel like you're estás descuidando the other parts of your life that could
yeah.
be an emergency or family emergency, just because you're trying to get ready for these other things, for
Mm,
like retirement in the future.
mm. Yeah, I feel like for the part with like the eres fijada or your goal, that like that's a
Hmm.
lot of conversations or like sayings I hear like in my family.
Yeah.
And it's like we, at least like more with like my aunts, like
Uh-huh.
I could give an example, like my one of my aunts, she used to spend a lot of money, like she will go, like her favorite place to be is at the mall, like that's it, like
I can never
she'll
find anything I like over there, bro. Like
yeah.
I like grew up with like yard sales and swap meet, and now that my cousin was like, they just got here and they were like taking me to Ross. I'm like, damn, you got monies, huh?
Like you have
Like you go to Ross. I
experiences
never
that
went to Ross or
I don't even
Marshalls
know
or
what
any of that.
Ross is.
I was like, damn, you going to the air conditioned stores, huh? Like I'm over here in the yard sales, the swap meet, and LA is like the fanciest place
Mm,
we going to the
literally.
callejones. But anyway, you were saying,
Yeah,
so she liked to go to the mall.
she likes to go to the mall and she will like spend her money like, after a paycheck, like she'll pay her bills and then whatever was left over, she would like go to the mall. So we had to like start having, once that I started having conversations, like my older cousins will start having these conversations and they going into like what am I like sharing what they're learning is like, okay, Tia, like this is we have to talk about this like intervention type of thing. So
Hmm.
you're spending a lot of money and you're not saving nothing. Like what happens if something bad happens and like you need money? Like what are you gonna do? So like starting those conversations, she was able to become aware of it because like
Oh,
sometimes
okay.
sometimes you just
Some
do
people
it.
are aware of it and then they like push back when you start having
Yeah,
this
no, for
conversation.
her
So this isn't
she
just tell me. Yeah.
yeah, she was like, okay, like, oh, I don't know. Again, like become aware
Yeah.
of it. Like, okay, I'm spending a lot of money. Why am I spending a lot of money? Like, because it also goes back to like personal
Hmm.
beliefs. Like, oh, I'm buying stuff because I want to fill up
I
a
want to feel.
hole in
Hmm.
my like in
Yeah.
myself. So yeah, so it's like having those conversations too, because it's like all interrelated, like those
Yeah.
money and personal. So yeah, so she started like okay, and then she started informing herself. So she started listening to podcasts, even though like there's not a lot of like you said, like immigrant, like on how
Hmm.
to do it, but it was more like money beliefs. And she started
Yeah.
listening to that. So now she's able to, now she doesn't even like going to the mall. Like she does not, she's like, okay, I'm gonna go because I need this and that. But
Uh-huh.
that's like she already knows what she's going for.
Yeah.
But if we wouldn't have had those conversations, she wouldn't had a savings account and she wouldn't have been aware of like the things that she was doing, which was
Yeah.
not it. So yeah, I thought it was
Oh, that's super great.
pretty
So there's a podcast that I
Mhm.
really like, and it's Rajiv Sethi. And
Oh,
he's
okay.
the author of like I'll Teach You How to Be Rich, and then he named his
Mm,
podcast that as well. But
yeah.
his background is actually in psychology. So
Mhm.
the thing that I like about him, because I have a hard time dealing with feelings, right? So that's why I'm just like, I'm gonna teach you the mechanics, like A to B, but I'm
Mm.
not the person. I'm like, it's not there's like a money therapist, something which
Oh,
is
financial
different, like
therapist.
the
Yeah. I
financial
saw your
therapist.
video. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like actually certified in therapy and in
Mhm.
finance. So like they can call themselves that. And yes, I did do a video of like, because we went to that FinCon conference and there was a lot of people calling themselves financial therapists. And so this person who actually was a financial therapist, like certified, was like,
Mm.
they shouldn't be doing that. And I was like,
Oh
I
wow.
agree, right? Because like I like that emotional like intelligence. So
Mm.
like for like I'm trying to figure out how to deal with my own feelings. So I can't deal
Mm.
with like other people's feelings. And so I'm not gonna advertise, I can help you deal with
Mm.
these feelings, right? I can
Yeah.
help you deal with the logical side. But
Mm.
anyway, so the reason I like his podcast is because he does have a psychological background, and then he actually deals with couples, and some of
Mm.
the stuff they come to him, and one of the stories was about like, it was a couple, they were well off, and but she kept spending a lot on
Mm.
bags, and the husband was like, why is she spending a lot of bags, right? Like you could just invest this money and this and that. And for him it
Mhm.
was logical, and I could see, and he was doing the spreadsheets and trying to show her the return. And Reggie was like, you could do this all day long and it wouldn't change the way she
Mhm.
feels. Have you tried asking her why she does
Mhm.
this? And then to her was like, it's like a status symbol. It represents safety, because
Mm.
the bags she was buying were the ones that actually like tend to go up in value sometimes.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't like, whatever bag.
Yeah.
So and to her it was like, because I grew up really poor, now
Mm.
having these bags allows me to feel like I've made it.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of us could resonate with that. Like we have something that we buy that isn't necessarily something that's going to make us money down the line. It's just
Yeah.
something to prove to ourselves, I've made it. I was
Mhm.
able
That
to buy this with
validation.
my own money. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so for him, then he could understand. And then, instead of her buying like multiple bags per year, just kind of going like, okay, how about we come to a happy medium? And they decided on buying her like one or two bags
Mhm.
for like her birthday, and then like a special something. And then on her birthday, making a way bigger deal out of her birthday
Mm.
to make her feel like she was special and celebrated. And I'm like, see, me, I could try and ask like, why do you feel like you got to buy this? But if they don't give me a good enough answer, I don't know how to keep probing. So
Yeah.
I like hearing him, and like if your aunt, speaks English, and or at least understands it, like that could be
A
beneficial
bit.
to her, because they do
Mhm.
talk through a lot of those psychological like
Yeah.
situations.
And I've probably heard like one episode, but yeah, I really like the financial I go more into like the emotional side of things.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm good at like the logical stuff, but I want to
Yeah.
know like the why, like why, like tell me why is
Yes.
this happening. So I love like listening to like those type of podcasts. So
Yeah, I'm
I'll
like, what
listen.
questions do we need to ask? Because that's the part I'm lacking. I want to learn more, right? Like, how do you get
Yeah.
people to open up to you like that?
Because those are conversations we need to have. Because there's another book I read, The Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. I don't know if you've heard about.
No, but I
No.
also like, for a lot of my knowledge, this is where
Mhm.
like a lot of people are like, I read these books, and sometimes the reels, like people will give you the
Mm.
recommendations, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I would feel about making one of those, because I didn't read any books. I literally just went
Mm.
through YouTube rabbit hole for
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 days back to back in one day, like mixed into the next, and I didn't know what day I was living in, and like because I was that like concentrated into it. And that's where I'm just like, I didn't read anything that I know. I haven't
Mm.
read from a book. And even when I
Mm.
was putting together, so I want to put together a course, right? A
Yeah.
digital course, so people can start, so it could have more impact, and I don't
Yeah.
always have to be there myself.
Mhm.
So when I started doing research, they're like, don't reinvent the wheel. Like a lot of people may already have this information. I was looking for a book. Ain't nobody put out a book about immigrant personal
Yeah.
finances, immigrants in the United States. There's a lot of memoirs about immigrants in the
Yeah.
United States, but there's not
Like
that
a
I
step
could
to
see, that
start.
I could find through
Mhm.
Amazon, which is
Oh
like the
wow.
biggest place ever, a book about immigrant finance in the United States. And I was like, you know what? Like that was an idea, but I was like, somebody already probably did it. So when I did my research and I saw that I couldn't
No
find
way.
anyone, I was like, that's what I want to do after. But like, and now I need to get my shit together and get this course going, Porque ya
Yeah.
hace casi almost 2 years. Like since
Oh
I
wow.
started the business, I
Mhm.
started the business with the sole intention of setting that course up. And it's in
Mm.
June or July, I think. No, like, well, officially, like in May, it's going to
Yeah.
be 2 years that
Wow.
the business has been, active, and it's made a little bit of money here and there, but it hasn't set out a course. And I'm just like,
Mm.
come on, we got to get this shit going.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I feel like for like business, because for me, like I've also with the podcast, for me it's been a year that I've been wanting to start, but
Mhm.
I never sent out those emails. I was like practicing,
Yes.
practicando, but I was never intentional. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna send those emails and like talk. I don't know. I was just too scared. But after years, like, okay, now the last 2 weeks of January, I was like, okay, I'm gonna send these emails, press send
Mhm.
with my eyes closed, and like that's
Yeah.
it. If they answer, they answer. But for you, I think it's also like interesting because one of the things I've learned with businesses and stuff is with business is that you have to learn how to prioritize your thing, which is also like difficult for you, not in my opinion, is
You could just say it. You just
because
say
you also
it.
have a 9 to 5 job, so it's like
Yeah.
you have to balance those things too.
Yeah. With a 3-hour commute every single day. And that's where I'm just like,
You
I don't
drive?
know. I'm so close at this. After the breakdown, I'm just like, what's not bringing me joy? And we need to
Oh my
cut that
God.
out. But then I was just like, but also this paycheck allows me, like, the paycheck is what currently puts money into the business when it needs it, right?
Mm,
Because the business isn't making enough money
yeah,
for its own. But then there's the whole like argument of, well, maybe if you dedicated more time, it would bring in more money and then it
yeah,
could sustain itself. Y esto y el otro. But yeah, like prioritizing. So like so what I had first thought of doing was doing the course and then like content creation.
yeah.
And sometimes I struggle even between that because I'll have time and I'm like energized, and making the content like gets me energized,
Mhm.
but it's not bringing revenue in, right? But I
Mm,
can like get followers and eventually bring
yeah.
revenue. But anyway, like, and then after I wanted to do the course, and then I wanted to do like speaking engagements because I really like interacting with people
Mm,
live to live. Like these things are what gives me energy, right? Talking to somebody else about what we're doing.
mhm.
And so doing speaking engagements and then like maybe doing a book, um, and then like paid collaborations with a big enough following. So to this point, like I've been featured in some newspapers. So I'm like, cool, that's so
Okay.
awesome. I've had speaking engagements. I'm going through my first paid collaboration right now. And I'm like, those
Mhm.
are great. That brings money into the business. But it's not the priority. Like the priority was
Mm,
fucking to like
do the
get this
course.
course out. And I
Oh,
think just also like dealing with that fear, right? So like
yeah.
as you're saying it, it
Mm,
may just be that fear of what happens if I give it my all, trabaja, what happens if it
yeah.
doesn't work? Because I already know I'm good at public speaking. So I'm
Yeah.
just like that to me, I'm not afraid of that. And I know the information that they need me to present. So
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of giving those presentations. For the collaborations, it's also like depending on what it is, I'm like, I know it's about knowing your material and just going like, can I do this? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I could do this, right? So I went through homework, trying to get homework assignments in on time. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't give me fear, but putting out a digital course is like what happens. And then also just wanting
Mm,
it to be perfect. And I think
yeah.
especially for the immigrant community, if you fudge up at some point, you lose their trust. Even if you
Mm,
acknowledge like, oh, I messed up on this little piece of
yeah.
information. So you know what? Like maybe it wasn't like black and white, it's black, white, gray, some little
Yeah.
areas over here, right? And so to me also the community that I service, I want to get it as perfect as possible for them on
Mm,
the first go because I know that I may not get another chance. And so trying to make it perfect is also what like a lot of business coaches say, like it's going to hold you back. Like it
yeah.
doesn't have to be perfect, just go for it. And
Mhm.
I'm like, no, it has to be perfect. So I get stuck on, certain things that I'm just like, like maybe I could launch it without this and then put this
Yeah.
in later or something. So yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm gonna like plant in there is like maybe you could do the course live. So like the first course, do it
Yeah.
live. Have
So
you
it's
thought
not
about that?
even so much about that. Yeah, I have thought about that, but not there's some things that I want to include. So for example, like when you say, so one of the first steps is getting your emergency fund,
Mhm.
right? And then it's like, I don't want people to be like, great, I need an emergency fund. Now what bank do I go to? Because especially for the community I'm servicing, not everybody's going to be
Mm,
working with people who are undocumented or have DACA.
mm.
Um, and then first gen, whatever, like
Yeah, there's
anything
such a
else, if
mix.
yeah, it's like if I find an information, a bank for a fully undocumented person, it should work for everybody else. So like that's what I'm concentrating
Mm,
on. So there's a list, there's banks, we know those, but then
yeah.
part of it is also like make your money work for you. So ideally you want to put in a high yield savings bank
Mhm.
account so it can give you a higher percentage. So, but some people are like, okay, like what banks? But then there's also credit unions, right? And I'm not
Mm,
gonna like deep dive into credit unions, but like I want to give a list of at least one credit union in all 50 states in the United States that accepts ITINs. And that is taking
mm,
a lot of time to call people up and call up the banks and being like, do you accept ITINs? Great. Now what do you have? Do you have high yield savings bank account? Do you have a business bank account? Do you
yeah.
have savings account? All of these things that are going to then help you as you go throughout the course. And if you
Mm,
decide, at the end to set up your own business because you want to legally make money, you know what bank you can go to. But also credit unions
mm.
service a very small space. So I know that list is also not going to
Not.
be enough. But just the fact that trying to compile over 50 of these and you don't get a yes on every single
Yeah.
bank, and you have to look through a database system that's like not the best with filters. um that takes time, and I'm like, "I need to hire someone," but at the same time, like, I asked my sisters, and my sister's like, "No," because one's going to university, the other one's going through tax
Mhm.
season right now, the other one's, like, too young and is like, "That sounds boring." Like, I don't even have a phone, like, and so I'm just like, "Raw."
I think for that, because I feel like at least from what I'm hearing is that you're like trying to give like all the information, but I think in order like to not make like you could say like, those excuses, is like let let the individuals who are going to be in your course to have those calls, to make those calls themselves,
Yeah, and so
because
that's the other way you could do it, you can have the community do it,
yeah.
but then that's where it's like, you have to then put a big disclaimer, right? This is made by the community, and so, like, it may
Mm,
not be 100% accurate, because otherwise, if people are like, "Oh, that came from the Our Wealth Matters course," then it
mm.
becomes that going back to the whole, like, if you mess up, you may not get another chance,
Yeah,
especially with
but
the immigrant
that's
community.
like it's like not I feel like it'll be more of a you give the questions of what they should be asking, but
Uh-huh,
like they themselves like find the answer. Like
mhm,
you don't have to like put them in your platform. It's like, okay,
mhm,
you're gonna call, I'm gonna give you some options, but here you could look at some options yourself and
mhm,
then find those key questions that they have to ask so that they know like, is this a good choice for me or not? Like
mhm,
those pros and cons, and they themselves make the decision. Because like another thing with with Rachel that I've learned is that sometimes we just gonna give people like all the information, and then that like drains us because it's like there's so much information out there.
mhm,
There's like how much information can I give, and also like the value of it, because it requires more time and all of that. But I
yeah.
don't know, I think for like
I know. I'm thinking
just
about just getting through that
it's
step.
just
I'm just like,
starting.
I may just need to be like, here's what I got so far, y'all. Everybody in the like states that start with other names further down the alphabet, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't get there.
Yeah, literally, that's literally all it is. They just start, and they like people also have to be understanding that I'm starting this, and I have little to no knowledge on what it actually is to start a course. So like
Mhm.
I'm also figuring out. So you also have to give me grace. Like, yeah, I'm gonna help you out, but you also have to like help me out, you know?
Yeah.
So type of, I don't know. It's just interesting. I just like see so much potential, and it's like, no, you have to do
I
this and that
know.
and that. And then it's like
I
when it comes
know. I'm like, this was, it could become like, if you don't get on it fast enough, somebody else could just come and be like,
yeah,
even if it's like not the product to the
yeah.
level you would want to put it out, but because they're first
They
here
still
to
have the
do
same.
it, they're just like, great, I'm gonna get all the, all the people and all the
Yeah.
revenue. And it's like, damn, that course could be better. And I'm trying to make it
Yeah.
better. But like, because you didn't put it out in time, like, ain't nobody gonna go to your course after they go
Yeah.
to that course. And
Yeah,
anyway.
that's something. No, but that's something I've been thinking about too. Because for me, when I started my podcast, it's like I'm someone who struggles with like putting their words together, like having a
Mhm,
good concrete answer, and then that imposter syndrome of like, oh yeah, this is not for me, or I don't deserve this, or
mhm.
who am I to start a podcast? But
Yeah.
then I see other people, or I listen to like random podcasts, and it's like their conversation's not that great, but like they're still doing it. Like
Right?
why can't I do it? So it's
You're
like
like, might as
might
well.
as well. Like if I'm gonna fail at something, I'm gonna start with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just like really like changing those beliefs of like, I don't know, like just start, just like literally just
Yeah.
start. Like you don't know what the possibilities are gonna be. And like we think, like you said, oh, like what if I like they're gonna cancel me because I made a mistake? And it's like, no, we also have like we have to like change those beliefs as well, of
Mhm.
like how I'm wording things, because no, people are not gonna cancel you because you made a mistake. Like people make mistakes, and if they are judging you for making a mistake, then like fuck them. Like you're trying to help them out, and it's like they come here and like judge me. Like no,
Right.
I don't know. I was just
See, I need that energy. I need that vibe. That's
yeah,
where I'm just like, especially like when I had the whole breakdown, the counselor was like, "Do you have a
yeah.
support system or anything?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then like another friend also asked me like, "Do you have any friends?" And I'm like, "Yes, but they're all around the world." Like I can't just be like, "And unite, guys, I need you."
Unite
It's
together.
just like,
Mhm.
yeah. And I'm just like, see this energy? I need that energy in my
Yeah,
life.
if you need help, like I'm up for like I don't know, but that's a conversation we could have
Yeah,
on the
that's
podcast.
it.
I don't even know how we got into this. But yeah, if you need help, just let me know. Okay, let's go back to I want to talk about representation, and we talked about this a bit, but
Mhm,
um, how can we start having more conversations, or how can us as individuals
mhm.
and then content creators, how can there be more representation? I feel like we touched bit upon this, but let's just expand a bit more on how we could have those conversations and be more
Like
representation.
have more immigrants in the
Yeah.
personal finance space specifically? Okay. I think one of the things that I've seen for people in other spaces, right, is making content that literally calls other people out. That's like,
Mhm.
hey, we need more of fill in the word. So here, like immigrants, we need
Yeah.
more immigrants in the personal finance space, like literally calling them
Mhm.
out and being like, we need to normalize
Yeah.
immigrants building wealth in the United States. And see, I
Mhm.
wish I could write these things down. Anyway, because this sounds great.
You have the recording after this.
Right? It's like we need you to show that it can be done, that there
Mhm.
have been immigrants that have made it, and not like
Yeah.
little I made it, but like big I made it,
Big
just
I
to
mean.
encourage other people. And even if it's little I made it, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's just about I didn't see someone like me
Mhm.
creating content, so I started making content. And that was
Mhm.
one of the things that, like, resonates with a lot of creators that
Yeah.
are not part of the Caucasian um background, right? They're like,
Mhm.
I didn't see me. So now you see a lot more Latinos doing
Yeah.
traveling videos. You see a lot more Latinos doing personal finance. Apparently that's an emerging thing. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I didn't realize it, that was an emerging thing. But even within Latinos in these creative spaces, there tends to be a lack of Spanish content in
Mm.
those creative spaces. Or maybe they're on a platform like YouTube, but they're not on a platform like Instagram. And there's some people that are
Yeah.
here on Instagram going like you, where you're like, hey, mommy, now you can see these videos because they're in Spanish because
Yeah.
you're on Instagram, but your parent might be like somewhere
Yeah, they
else
would
on
have they
another
would have
platform,
never
right?
found out if
Yeah.
I hadn't told them. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are some followers that I've had that send me messages that say, I literally made my mom, or,
Mm.
yeah, it tends to be mom. I made my mom an Instagram account just so she could follow you to see
Oh
your
wow.
Spanish content. And that to me, I'm just like, bro, and these are people that, are probably hanging out on Facebook, maybe a little
Mm.
YouTube, but they're not thinking about coming out on
On
Instagram, right?
Instagram.
And I started doing all these other platforms and like, cross putting my content, but it became a
Mm.
lot because sometimes then you got issues and then the draft folder and then some, it's too much. And I'm like, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
they're
concentrate on
repurposing.
Instagram and maybe TikTok because it's too much to
Yeah.
try to build on every single one at the
Mm.
same time.
Yeah.
I was like, it takes time. At that point, I'm just like, at this
Because
point, I'm like, I just need a team.
that's a full-time job. Like people are
Yeah.
full-time content creators because it takes time.
Yes.
Like I've been making my own videos too, and it's like, oh my god, and like coming up with ideas.
Like,
Do you
I'll
think?
make them. I wanna make them, but I don't wanna have to go and post them, and then the caption
Yeah.
creating, and then there's people that like social media managers, right? It's just
Mhm.
their whole job, their whole
Yeah.
9 to 5 is just to manage the social
The
media.
social media.
So
Yeah.
we're trying to have, like, over here, me, 9 to 5, plus be social media manager, plus
Yeah.
be content creator, plus be the copywriter, plus be the course
Yeah.
creator, plus be the translator. Google helps out a lot with that, but then, you gotta go back and fix it because you're like,
Yeah.
this guy be mixing tú and usted in the same like caption. What are we talking about? What are we using? Formal,
Non
non-formal?
formal.
So
Yeah. Do
yeah.
you? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Go.
Oh no, I was just gonna try to get back to the original question.
Oh,
That
I
you asked,
was.
like, how can we have more representation?
Yeah.
Basically calling out people, right?
Calling.
And then
Mhm.
so that other people that are just consumers of the content can at least see themselves represented and
Mhm.
can see that it's not just one person out there thriving, that it's
Yeah.
multiple people out here thriving. So if they can do it, I can probably do it too, and get on that train when they're
Yeah.
like, yes, let's do it. Maybe you don't have to become a content creator yourself, but you can also do like what you did, right? You share the content and then it may spark something in somebody.
Mhm. Yep. That's yeah. That's kind of like why. Like, there's so many reasons why I started this podcast, but one of them was that to also like, um, share share like I don't have much experience, but I'm also doing it. Like I don't
Mhm.
care. And then there's also that of like sharing other, like how you said, like either big or small logos, like achievements, where people are like, okay, if they're doing it, then I could do it too. And people that look like us too, because
Mhm.
that's so, for me, that's representation is like a really big issue for me because I never really saw like people like who look like me in social media or like anything. Like when I wanted to travel, I didn't really see a lot of like travel like content creators in the travel niche like that look like me, and especially being undocumented, because if you're undocumented you
Mhm.
can't travel
You go through
international.
like a whole other slew of
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah, so you have to, it's either like in the United States or you have to do advanced parole, but even with
Well,
advanced parole you have to, there's like humanitarian, work related, or school. So if
mhm,
I'm not in school I can't do that. If I don't have a job I can do that. If I don't have somebody in Europe where like my family members lives I can't do that. So
mhm.
there's like a lot of things that people have, like you said, we have to call them out and they'd be like, okay, how did you do this? Or if you're
Mhm.
not, if there is nobody, then you do it and then you
Yeah, you
tell me
tell
what
them
I
how
can
to do
do.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like trying to expand my network of people who are working specifically to serve the undocumented community, because
Mhm.
some people are undocumented themselves, and like
Yeah.
me not being undocumented, I can't personally go through things to then
Mhm.
report back,
Yeah.
right? Because I can't, like, if I try to open up a bank account, I got a social security number. I don't have to jump through those other hoops.
Yeah.
So I can't do that and report back. So I rely on others, and just like from knowing from other people, like,
Yeah.
how'd you
Through their
do this, how'd you do
experiences.
that, oh, are you able to do this? So sometimes I teach something to my client and I'm like, hey, I know this brokerage company will allow you to sign up, but I think you have to do a paper form and you might even have to go in
Mm.
person. So like I had this happen with a client once, right? And then she's so like on it that she then called the company herself, because I had
Yeah.
already called, right? But she called them herself, and they're like, have you tried doing the online form? And she's like, oh no, but because I thought I couldn't, because it says insert social security number here, so like I don't have a
Mm.
social security number. She was fully undocumented.
Yeah.
And the person was just like, I mean, I don't know, just give it a try, and then if it doesn't work, then you go through all those other steps. She tried it and it went through
Oh
online, so it's
wow.
like 5 minutes worth, and I would have never known that because the form online literally says put your social security number here,
Yeah.
and doesn't say social security number slash ITIN. It literally just
Mm.
says.
Yeah.
So the only way you can know is if you know someone who knows,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Like you have to just be in the know. And I'm like, great. So I found that out, and I can now use that with all my other clients
Other
and put it on
clients.
social media and just be like, guys, like you can do
Mm.
this online. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
And then I love like clients like that because they're on it and they're not afraid. It's like, you have that idea of like, yes, we're in a difficult, different situation, maybe because we got to jump through hoops and we never know
Mm.
who's talking to who. But like, Maribel already told me I can open up
Yeah.
an brokerage account with an ITIN with this company. So
Mm-hmm.
filling out the form isn't gonna like ring any bells than what they were already dealing with. And then just actually going and doing the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it goes back to like we gotta I forgot to say, but yeah, we gotta find people who are dealing with those experiences and
Mhm.
being able to share it. And I think
Yes.
another thing is like not just calling out. I don't know if we could do this or is a thing, but calling out like companies too, like giving out more
Oh, I
information
was
on those
totally gonna
things.
call one out, and
Yeah.
then and then I like lost because it kept like, because this is where we go back to the making content. It
Mm-hmm.
kept like going over 2 minutes, my whole rant,
Oh.
and then eventually I was just like, forget it, forget it. Like after like a
Yeah.
half an hour of trying to record this thing, I was like, and we're done. Like I don't feel so strongly about it anymore. I'm just not gonna say nothing.
Mm.
But I'm thinking I should make it a lot, because so this just has to do with high yield savings banks, and one people always talk about is Ally Bank, but the
Mm.
Ally Bank doesn't work for ITINs or
Mm.
people who are not like residents. And if you try to call them and be like, what do you mean by resident? Is it based on the days that I've been here, or legal resident, like the
Mm.
legal sense? No te
Yeah.
pueden decir one way or the other.
Oh
Basically, they're
wow.
just like, we accept people who are citizens. That's who
Yeah.
we accept. And then, so I get coaches asking me like, hey, I have a client who's like, doesn't have a social security number, isn't a citizen, like who else can they go to? And I'm like, hey, I
Mm.
got a great alternative called Varo Bank. It
Mm.
it gives 5% for the first $5,000.
Oh
Five
wow.
percent is a
A
lot,
lot.
and it accepts ITINs and it accepts social security numbers. So this works for the whole spectrum of people that I work with, right? And so I get coaches coming and telling me that I just kind of want to be like, bro, Ally didn't even do. Oh, and because at the conference they were there, and I tried to ask them,
Oh my god.
hey, like, and then there was this whole interchange, and then they like sent me to customer service, but like emails, and then they just sent me a screenshot from their website, and I was like, bro, obviously I already looked that up. That's why I went to people in person. Like, my question is there any future plans to accept ITINs in the
Mm-hmm.
future? And they're like, oh, well, it's because we're not just a bank, we kind of hold like stock, like some brokerage side of us too, or
Yeah.
something. I don't know what it was. And I was like, listen, Bank of America, much bigger bank,
Yeah.
accepts ITINs for bank accounts, and they have their Merrill Lynch side. So they have like, there you can invest through another side of Bank of
Mm-hmm.
America as well. Like, so there's that. And if you're saying
Yeah.
because of the high yield savings account thing, Varo over here is a fintech, and they're an online bank just like you, and they accept ITINs. So like, tell me where, like, if
Yeah.
those people figured it out,
Why can't you?
why can't you? Like, I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying, do you have any plans? Because if you don't, then I'm just gonna be like, hey, anybody, like, never go to Ally. But if
Yeah.
you do, like, hey, I could be like, y'all, I know you
Like
guys
keep
all like
updated.
keep me updated. Tell me when you
Hmm.
do, because I will shout you out to everybody and be like, Ally finally accepts undocumented immigrants, right? Like, y'all can now finally go do
Yeah.
business there. But yeah, it's just kind of like, just tell me how I'm supposed to, like, what my vibe is supposed to be towards you. Like, do you have any plans? Yes or no? But don't keep sending me like a screenshot from your website that I obviously already saw like a ton of times.
Yeah, and it just being on email too. Like it's not even a
Yeah.
proper conversation.
Yeah. I'm like, you
Hmm.
could have at least called me, bro.
um, let's go with the since it's almost like an hour. Let's go with the what those who are hearing this conversation, let's say for the first time, or are starting their personal finance journey. What are like some of the first few steps, like which we have talked a bit of, like emergency fund and all
Yeah.
that, but yeah, let's go through like a step by step type of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
so this is what I use. These are the steps that I use to teach my clients. So step one, I kind of want to make it like step zero, but step one is you figure out your why. Why the fudge are you even doing this?
mm-hmm.
And so when I've asked people, it sometimes becomes like, I want to be able to vacation once a year without any issues of like, oh my gosh, I spent way too much, right?
Mm, yeah.
Another one could be like, I just want to make a casita for my mom. I want to make a house for my
Mm,
mom, wherever it is that she wants, back in the homeland or here. I just
mm-hmm.
want to be able to buy a house for my mom.
Yeah.
Other people are like, I want to be able to provide a stable future for my future children. I want to be able to have children and provide them, so that they don't have to go through some of those financial hardships that I had to go through
Mm,
growing up. And I'm like, cool, right? So you just have to find something that's like, why are you doing this? And that's strong enough, because that's going to be like your North Star. Anytime you're
mm,
wondering, like, why am I saving money? Why am I putting money to my 401k, my IRA, blah, blah,
yeah.
why am I putting money towards these savings but not even spending it? I'm like, that your pocket is itchy, or el bolsillo te pica, like, what did
Yeah.
they say?
Yeah.
Like the money's itching in your pocket type of thing, that you remember your why. Like, oh,
Mm,
right, there's money there, but it's because I'm saving it for X, Y, and Z, because
yeah.
I'm trying to achieve this goal that is my why, and I don't have enough money for that, which is why the money's still
Mm,
there, and we shouldn't spend it.
yeah.
So that's your North Star. That should be a strong enough why to get you through your money journey. And your whys can change, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be more than one, and it can change. The whole point is we want to have something that's strong enough to get you through this journey. Once you figure out your why, other people are like, I don't want children, blah, blah, blah. They're like, I just want a better future for my pet. If that's you, that's cool too. Like, listen, right?
whatever,
Um,
whatever motivates you.
yeah, whatever motivates you, literally. And then, so step number two would be, get your emergency fund. So this is when we start looking into, it should typically be about 3 to 6 months of
Mm-hmm.
living expenses, because this can help you if you get fired from a job, or honestly just to leave a situation or a relationship that no longer serves you. This can be
Mm-hmm.
like something like an abusive relationship, a relationship where you're relying on somebody for financial need, but like, it allows you to just get up and leave and not
Mm-hmm.
have to stay in a situation
Yeah.
because you need their
Yeah.
monetary
Depending
support.
on them.
Yeah. So that's what an emergency fund is for. And it's typically 3 to 6 months of living expenses, which means like, you need to turn the lights on, pay the
Mm,
bills, pay the gas, pay the trash, put food on the table, put a roof over your head. Because 3 to 6 months is typically how long it takes to find a new job, or to find a job if
mm.
you've never worked.
Yeah.
Um, well, I'm going to say a new job, because actually it might take
If
longer
you,
if you don't have work experience. But 3 to 6 months. If you want to have more, you're more than welcome. Basically, this is whatever amount makes you feel safe. If
mm,
having a year's worth of living expenses saved up makes you feel safe and be able to sleep at night, go with that. Because 3 to 6 months is just un decir, is like
yeah,
an estimated.
yeah.
Yeah. After about a year, you'll start losing purchasing power to inflation, but
Mm,
ain't nothing that can compete with your like safety, with your mental, like being able to feel safe.
yeah.
So then after the emergency fund, then you start looking at what are some of the things that you already have available to you. So if you work and your employer gives you a 401k
Mhm,
and they give a match. If they don't give you a match, we're going to skip this. But if they give you a match, we're going to then start contributing to that 401k in order to get that money.
mm,
Because that is money. The match is basically saying, if you put $6 in, I'll match you and give you $6 as well.
mhm,
That money, some people say, is free money, but it's not free money. It's money that the company already said, already calculated that they would compensate you when they offered you the job. So by not putting money
Mm.
into your 401k when you're getting a match, you're actually leaving money on the table that was
Oh, wow.
already earmarked for you. So we don't want to, we don't want to sleep on that money. We want to get all that
Yeah.
money. So we get the 401k, and then we get the IRA, individual retirement account. This
Mm.
again is also so that you can save money for your retirement, and both the 401k and the IRA are tax advantage, which means that
Mm.
they both have a traditional and a Roth sense. And without going too deeply, it just means you're going to be able to save on money on taxes either now
Mm.
or in the future. So we're not
Mm.
just trying to make your money work for you, we're also trying to get it to save you on taxes, which is why we put
Mm.
these in front of other things, but definitely after the living expenses, right? In between, so actually right after this all assumes that you're able to pay for your living expenses. So
Mm.
after the 401k only comes first before like living expenses, because usually you need to deduct that money from your check before it hits your bank account.
Mm.
So sorry, after 401k, we're going to make sure you have enough money to pay your living expenses for the next upcoming month or biweekly period, or until you like get paid the next, right? Which is like, do
Mm.
you have enough for rent, put food on the table, turn the lights on, all of that. Then you're
Mm.
going to go to like IRA. Um, After that. And then so I know there's like other steps that sometimes it depends on your personal
Mm.
situation. Like if you want to save for, there's something called like a sinking fund, which is
Oh,
just
yeah.
basically like you sink money in there, but it can be to save for that vacation, save for a short term or a long term thing that you want to save for. So short term would be like, I want to take a vacation in 2 months' time. So you put a bunch of money in there.
Mm.
Or I want to buy a house, but that's going to take me like, a couple years of saving. So we put money in there
Mm.
and make sure that that money is also working for you, not just sitting there, but working for you in a high yield savings bank account.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, Anything after once you've taken care of, so you've taken care of future you by putting money into the 401k, IRA, retirement accounts. You've taken care of current you because you've made sure you have enough money for your living expenses until you get paid again. And
Mm.
now you've made sure you're taking care of like those wants, those things that you want to save for.
Mhm.
And then after that, any money that's left over, you can just spend however you see fit and be like, this is my fun money. It's all
Yep.
I've already taken care of current me, future me. And that way you don't have to think, you don't have to have that mentality like, oh my gosh, how am I going to spend money? What if an emergency comes up? Because emergency fund, topping off your emergency fund was step number one. We already took care of
Mhm.
that. You are set. So any of the money that's left over, you're able to just spend guilt-free. Don't worry about
Mhm.
it. Spend it however you want. No le tienes que rendir cuentas a nadie. And that's your money. You can invest it, you can save it, you can give it away to a friend, a family member, or you can just take yourself out to a movie or like some sushi or whatever it is that your favorite meal is and not have to worry about, oh shit, what if I need this money for something else?
Mm. What advice do you have for like those who I forgot my question, but what advice do you have for those who I forgot my question, but
I started doing that and then I started writing them down because I was
yeah,
just like, I'm just gonna write that
what are
down.
my questions? Um, oh, I really did forget my question. Okay, but
I can mention something else. I see that it triggers
yeah, yeah.
anything. Mientras, so there is also another account called a health savings account, and this has to deal with what kind of health plan you have.
Ooh,
But
okay.
this is an account that you put money into for like any health expenses, like if you got to pay a copay when you
Mm.
go see the doctor or you got to pay for medicines. But the special thing about this account is that you can also invest the money in there. And so, but because that has to do with you have to have a high deductible health plan for this. So
Mhm.
it's not available to everybody,
Mm.
but that goes right in there between like right before the IRA because some health that one if you're in California, it doesn't have the triple tax advantage, but if you're in other states, it does. In California, it only has like maybe a double tax advantage
Mm.
because in some states you put money and your employer puts money and you can invest it. So you save money on
Oh, wow.
taxes. And then when it comes out in later years, even and there's no time limit of when you can use it. So it as long as it comes out for medical expenses, you don't pay taxes on it. And if you wait till a certain age, like later in life, like retirement age, you can actually take that money for non-medical expenses
Oh, wow.
at that point. So that's where it becomes really tax advantage. But for some reason, California, is money hungry. So we don't get all the tax advantages. Like I think employers may not be putting money in, it's just you. And then,
Mm.
but you get like at least one tax advantage from that. So that one's up there with the step of IRAs.
I've never heard about that. What is called
Yeah, that
health?
one's like very little known. That's why
Yeah,
I wanted to mention it.
it's crazy. I did not know that. But you said it was with what was the requirement? Because you
You
said
have to have, okay, so the account is called HSA, Health Savings Account. And in order to have this account, you have to have an HDHP, High Deductible Health Plan.
mm,
So sometimes whatever the health plans, like let's say you have a job, sometimes they offer HMO or PPO. That is not the same as a high deductible health plan. So typically it means like you're gonna have to go out and buy and figure out your own health plan, and buy it outside from what your employer is asking,
mhm.
from the ones they're offering, sorry. And that's where some people, that's what's kept me from from switching over, because I'm like, oh, research, no, I'm just gonna pay my employer the health plan that they got and we're good, we'll call it a year, maybe next year I'll do the research.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, like again, I've never heard about that, so I'll definitely do some research. And for those who are listening to, also do your research and like see if you're qualified.
Mhm.
Because yeah, that's awesome. Um, I still didn't remember my question, but what were some for those? Because we have the steps, but um, what are some conversations that people should have even before that? Because again, like limiting beliefs that people may have can really influence on like whether they want to do the emergency
Mhm.
fund, want to do the investment, because that's also like risk. Some people believe it's like
Yeah,
risky, or they want to do. Oh, okay, yeah, let's start with that, and then I have another question after that.
yeah,
So
write it down, write it down.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think part of it is in figuring out your risk tolerance is one of the very important things that you have to do at the beginning of your journey.
Yeah.
But I think even then you can do some of the steps that feel safer. So for example, and this has to do with like whatever your past experiences may have been. So what I'm going to say may still feel risky to you, which is where you save the emergency fund in a high yield savings bank account. That in my mind is much safer than putting it in an investment account. And
Mhm.
that's also step one, right? We were just going to build this up, and this is literally in case of an emergency, I'm going to use this money.
Mhm.
But some people, based on their prior experiences, maybe like these banks are, it could go down and my money could be lost. But that's where we also have to become educated on the USA financial system. So the USA for banks has an insurance called the FDIC insurance, and credit unions have their
Mm.
own insurance as well. So you have to make sure that whatever bank you're using is FDIC insured, which means that if that bank goes down, the government will pay you back as the account holder up to $250,000 of the
Oh.
money that you had in that account. So if you
Mm.
had $250,000 and one, you're only getting $250,000. If you had $2,000, that you're only getting $2,000. It's like up to, that's the
Yeah.
maximum, right? For me personally, I was like, I don't see an issue. I don't have $250,000 in the bank. I don't see when I'm ever gonna have that much money, in the bank. It might be invested, but I don't know about the bank. So I should be fine, right? And let's say you do go past that, then you just go and you open up another account at another bank, because
Mm.
it's per account. I don't know if it's per account at each bank or if it's all your accounts put together per bank.
Mm.
So that's where you also have to
Do your
do some research.
research.
Yeah, because for me, I haven't had to really look that deeply in it, because again, I don't have
Not
$250,000.
yet.
Yeah, not yet in a bank, so I haven't had to deal with that. Um, so doing those steps, at least starting the personal finance journey, figuring out your why, right? Some of them, it's their kids, it's their pets, it's their parents, it's just, I want to be able to have a vacation
Mhm.
and not have to worry about it. So figuring out your why, you can still go through that step. You can still go through the step where you start building an emergency fund, put that money in a high yield savings account, because it's going to start bringing you interest.
Mm.
So it's going to start working for you while you sleep, basically. And all the steps that I gave you, that's where money starts working for you while you sleep, so
Mhm.
that you can make money without having to physically work for it. And all of, except for the interest, the money that you get, that you make from investments, if you leave it there for longer than a year, it's called long term. If you
Mhm.
leave it for less than a year, it's called short term. Long term capital gains taxes are actually way more advantageous than if we earn that money from W-2. So for example, let's say from, I think, like 0 to 40,000, you get charged 0% on long-term tax.
Oh wow.
Like, yeah. And so, but if you were to earn it in W-2 income, you already have to pay a couple taxes.
Bunch of
After,
taxes.
Yeah, a bunch of taxes. And then from zero, it goes to 10% for the next like rung. And
Mm,
so, when we do W-2 income, it goes from like 0 to 10 to 20, 22, 24 real quick,
mm,
right? Like with just $40,000, in fact, right? We would already be paying tax, como dijimos, but if you just earn that money just from selling stocks after having it for at least 1 year, like you're going to pay way less taxes. So
mm.
this money is not only working for you while you sleep, but if you get gains from it as well, you're going to be paying less taxes. And that's how the rich manage to pay less taxes overall
Yeah.
with the same amount of money that we're working for, that we're like breaking our backs to bring home to back home, but we end up paying more taxes.
Yep.
So we're trying to diversify your income. You're not only going to have a W-2 income, you're also going to have that investment income, so you also pay less taxes on it, even if you make the same amount as your W-2 income.
Yeah. That's now that you're talking about stock markets, I read this book called um The Simple Path
To
to
wealth.
Wealth. Have you
Yeah,
heard about that one?
I've heard of
Yes.
it. Yeah.
So his book is like super interesting because when you go into like the stock market, like people who talk about the stock market, they're like, yeah, diversify your income, like do a bunch of stocks, blah blah blah. But then his book is like the complete opposite. He's like, go into one, the index fund, and then
Yeah,
and
that's all
index
I
fund,
got.
and that's all. That's it. Is
Plus
that?
like two other ones, but that's just because I was like one of them. So I have my whole portfolio is made up of index funds.
Mm,
And then, and this is not a suggestion for anybody, obviously do your
yeah,
research,
not legal
do what's best.
advice.
Yeah, not financial advice.
Mhm.
I am not a financial planner or certified financial planner. Again, all my knowledge just comes from like books, personal stories, and like YouTube
Yeah.
videos. So my whole portfolio, 90 something percent of it is made up of index funds.
Mhm.
And this can be like the S&P 500 or the total stock index fund, and then some international index funds in there. But then I just have two stocks, and one of them is because my company gives me a discount. So it's
Mhm.
called ESPP, Employer Stock Purchase Program. So they gave me a discount on what the lowest price was in the whole quarter for that stock.
Mm.
So, if it was $10, then I get a 15% discount and I get it at even lower. So were
Oh
I to be
wow.
able to sell it instantly, like the day I got it, I would already make a 15% gain. But
Mhm.
every company is different. My company has a rule that you have to keep it at least 1 year, which I'm cool with because, as we just discussed, if you
Long
keep it
time.
for more than 1 year, you pay less taxes if you sell
Mhm.
it and get a gain. And then the other one was just like Tesla, because I just wanted to like support green energy and stuff. And I've always
Mm.
wanted to have something. And at one point, like Fidelity, which is one of the brokerages that does accept ITINs, um, they were having a promo where you like put $50 in and they'll give you $100.
Oh wow.
So I used those $100 and just bought Tesla because I was like, ain't my money. Like it's free money and I can finally buy this. And I think they still have a promo on right now.
Oh
You
wow.
put that same promo, but only for like IRAs, individual
Mm.
retirement accounts, which are one of those things that we just talked about.
Yeah.
So
So those who are listening, go check it out and see if
if it's still
do your
going.
research, and if it's still going, do your research if that's like a thing that you want to do.
Mhm.
Before we end, I want to ask, like, through this whole journey, what are like the top, you can do as many as you want, but like let's say like the top three things that have happened that you were like holy crap, I can't believe this is happening to me. Because like sometimes we tend to forget our growth and like the experiences that we never had before, but like now it's like the normal thing. So I
Yeah.
don't know, like to give people like the idea like, oh shit, like this happened to me, and like if you go do what you want to do, like you're gonna have those opportunities as well. So for you, what were some of
Yeah.
those things?
So one of the things is that and it was based on like my personal story, but Our Wealth Matters was, intertwined in there because it's part of my story, got featured in an article in the New York Times. And I would have never met the writer if I wasn't in the personal finance space. So I was featured in the New York Times. That was super awesome. I was just like, what? And like, I bought the newspaper and I have it, and I'm trying to like blow it up and put it somewhere to remind me of like, you did this shit.
Yeah.
Then the other thing was I was gonna go to a personal finance conference. Like it's a bunch of personal finance content creators, they
Mhm.
come, but you can also apply to be a speaker. And I was like, I'm a good public speaker. Like, people need to know about this. Like, I don't know. Like, we'll put it in. So like I try to write up a really good topic, and I got selected to go. And that meant that I could upgrade my ticket to do more things at the event. And then I think I was gonna get a refund for the beginning price that I had paid.
Oh
So I was
wow.
like, oh, and oh my gosh, that trip was so expensive between flights and the hotel that we were staying at. And
Oh.
I was just like, okay, I at least saved like the cost of the ticket, right? And um I got to meet people that were content creators that I had known, but like I
Mm.
now got to meet them in
In
person,
person.
and then I got to meet other people that I hadn't met and got become connected with other creators. So that
Mm.
was really great. And then the third one is the most recent one where I just got my first paid collaboration, which is with a really big, the sponsor is a really big company. And I'm just like
Mm.
super excited because I was like, I know that company. Like, they're big in the personal finance, but like they have a big role in finance, in
Mm.
personal finance in general. And I'm just like,
Oh,
so
that's so
I was like,
awesome.
and I knew I got paid, and I'm like, maybe I could have gotten paid more, but I was like, it's my first one, and
That's
it's like
a
being sponsored by a big company, so yay.
that's awesome. And that's like another whole conversation of like pricing and how
Mm-hmm.
much you charge. Like I could get into that, like, but maybe we could do this like off camera. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
was like, I feel like we just have like we need to have a whole community where we're okay with being paid transparent. And that's one of the other things of talking about your finances with people that create a safe space for you, right?
yeah,
Because like if you share how much you're earning, some people will become jealous and
yeah.
not the good company that you want to keep. But then there's other people that are like, oh shoot, I'm doing that same job and I'm getting paid less. So I
Mm,
need to up my prices.
yeah.
And there are some people that are like, "Oh, I'm doing that same job, but I'm getting paid more." And so now it helps that
Mm,
other creator or that other
yeah.
person bring up their prices. So it really pay transparency only helps all of us get paid more and
Mm,
be, uh, not keep us from underpricing what our worth is just because we're like, "Oh, we're small or we're just starting off." It's
mm-hmm.
like trying to remember like, no, you bring a unique perspective that nobody else is bringing, and that's why you're worth more and you
Yep.
should be charging more, or you should at least be charging, like, or my account's not big enough. Well, yeah, but your unique perspective, ain't nobody
And
else
if
got this
they
knowledge.
came to you, then it's for a reason too.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, with Rachel, like the person the business coach,
yeah,
one of the first things she says or that she teaches us is that you have to double your prices because we tend to like what it's called like low ball ourselves, like put a low price, but in
yeah.
reality, she's like, obviously there's like other factors too, but
Hmm.
one of the things she says like double your prices because we tend to do that. We tend to
Yeah,
charge lower. So yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Like for the next year, you're gonna get double that. So that's awesome.
Hey.
Before we go, I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for this awesome conversation. Like I love talking about money and money conversation, so I love
Yes,
this. Um, can you share your handles, your social medias, and also if you have any projects like your course that it's gonna come up maybe this year? Like yeah, share
yes.
anything.
Yeah, so I am on social media on Instagram and TikTok, but I mostly hang out on Instagram. And so I will do IG lives and sometimes TikTok lives if somebody invites me on there. So sometimes, you'll just see like, hey, we're gonna be talking about taxes for immigrants
Mm,
specifically, or just I all the information revolves around the immigrant experience and personal finances. And then I also try to bring in other points of view as well. So I'm on social media under the handle at Our Wealth Matters.
mm,
And I also have one-on-one coaching sessions for an hour where we go through and look at your most pressing questions. So
mm.
feel free to check that out and see if that's good for you.
Yep.
And if you're like, you know what, I want to learn more, but I'm not like ready to commit, right? Like there's also a link in my bio and it's on my website. But there's a link in my bio in my social media platforms that takes
Mm.
you to a freebie that's like 10 plus pages of
Wow.
information and graphics that's personal finance information specifically tailored for the immigrant community. So, like, let's say you just found out about ITINs and you're like, what is that? There is a page there that like tells you about how you can apply for an ITIN.
Mm.
And then you feel free to share it. And it's also in English and in Spanish. And so this gets you on that mailing list. So if any future projects, I will send out to this same mailing list and you'll be up to date. So when that course comes out, you'll
Mm.
be one of the
You'll
first
be
people
known.
to know about it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So definitely go check it out. I'll put your links on the descriptions that they have
Yes.
in there. And again, I want to thank you so much for being here, and
Thank you. Thank
go
you.
support her and all of that. Thank you.
Yes. And I just want you all to remember que tú lo vales. You're worth it.
Yes.
So, go out there and do it. I believe all immigrants need to learn how to build wealth, whether you're going to stay here, whether you're planning to stay here for a little bit or a long time.
For a long time. Yeah. I feel like there's still so much to talk about, but it could be a part 2. And when you're like promoting your course, and you come back here.
Right. All
Okay.
right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. Thank you.